Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to
Hello.
another installment of Coffee Chats. You guys are probably familiar with our names and faces by now, but I'm Kyra and Dawkins, and
I'm Mackenzie Finklea.
so first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a wonderful guest, and we're going to be talking about why it's so important for, in order for our books to be shared into the broader world, we need to activate our networks. So, without further ado, we're bringing somebody who not only activated his network in his book writing journey, but wrote a book about network building. So, drum roll, please. Dun, 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 dun. Hi, David.
Hey everyone, and hello, all beautiful people out there.
David, thank you so much for joining us today. We would love for you to briefly introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure, David Olivencia, live right outside of Chicago. I'm a technology senior executive. I invest in a lot of startups and a couple unicorns, and I've co-founded several leading leadership organizations. And the underpinnings of all of that has been networking. And I'm an author. A proud New Degree Press author, book published March 10th, Amazon hot new bestseller in a couple categories, and an honor to be with all of you today.
And coincidentally, a book about networking.
That's right. That's right.
You want to tell us?
Excellence.
Excellence. Tell us a little bit more about your book.
So it's the book's networking excellence, and the work in the word networking. I can maybe see if I can put it. The word work is capitalized. Wait, if I can do that. It's capitalized because there's a lot of work behind it. And so really, I've been able to accomplish a lot of things in the career ladder, in investing in startups and founding, networking. But I take all of those and pack it into the book. I create a methodology and a framework, tips, tools, techniques. But the great thing about New Degree Press is I interviewed 30 phenomenal people and also pick their brains on, well, what makes a good network? What are your tips, techniques, and how do you approach it? And packed it all into the book.
Mm-hmm. So to that end, this kind of brings us into our first official question, so to speak. Because you have so much network experience that has played a huge role in your professional life and your expertise, when was the moment you knew you wanted to write a book specifically?
Yeah, a lot of people have come up to me and said, David, you're really good at networking. You should really put something together in this space. And I've admired a lot of authors out there and what they've been able to put together. And I was networking with a friend and said, I'm really thinking about putting a book. I've got a couple things that I want to. And she said, hey, you should really check out New Degree Press. They got a pretty cool model and program and cohort. And Selena Rivera, she's actually also almost working on a book we publish here in the next couple of months. So that, because it was all like you swirl a bit, and I said, no, I like this because it keeps you accountable. That you have the peers and the cohort that's working with you to do that. So it was a bit of that, and then you're kind of in the journey, and then you're in it. As you guys know, you're in it, and you get through it. But that's kind of how I knew I wanted to, and it's been wonderful. It's been great.
I do have a follow-up question for you, David. I would love to know a little bit more about how you came to feeling like the topic of the book that you chose. Already very aligned with what you do, but I'd love to learn a little bit about the moment when you were like, yeah, this is what I feel like I could write 30,000 words about.
Yeah, I said, and I knew it, one, because I had good experiences on it, and I had, the corporate executive, and I use it to start, then I've done it. But then I said, if you look at universities and like, if you say, what's the number one skill to find a job, to accelerate in your career, to more rapidly accomplish your goals? Everybody say, oh, you got to do networking. You got to do networking. Oh, you want to sell a book. Oh, you got to do networking. You got to do networking. But nobody really teaches you like how. So like, there's like for such a key important skill, there's not really, we kind of learned it, we stumble upon it, and New Degree Press has some great tools and things. So that was another reason why. And then I think it's just part of giving back. I said, this is something I can give back, and I'd love to speak on. I love speaking. I have fun speaking. So I thought that was another thing. But I think that fulfilling demand part, I think, is really, it's such a key skill for so many different areas. And there's not enough things that we kind of stumble upon it. We learn here and there, but if you could get the best practices and do it in a more efficient way and more rapid. If I had my book 30 years ago, who knows what the heck I'd be doing right now. But that's what I hope I give to the readers out there.
I mean, just full confession, your book topic really appeals to me because career fairs are the most confusing spaces because they just say, oh, walk around. You have your resume in tow. Go to the places that interest you. And they're the in-person spaces and the virtual spaces. And honestly, it's just a bunch of young people walking around confused. That's usually what ends up happening. So
and there's long lines, and it's very, and like what I write about in the book is like you get to know the people in the companies beforehand, reach out to them beforehand, build relationships with them beforehand. If you're competing in there's long lines of people and think about it, you're going to chat with somebody who's been in a line for like 50 people, one after the other. It's you don't want to. You don't want to. People who are excellent at networking aren't doing that. They're finding other ways to get a job.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You also, like, in the answer to our follow-up questions, have actually kind of started to answer the next official question we have for you. So if somebody who's good at networking is not the person who's waiting in these long, awkward lines, what would it mean for somebody to have a strong and successful network?
That's a great question. So I call it my framework, and the work is capitalized too. So the first part of the framework is having a great foundation, knowing who you are, what you're good at, what you love, what makes you happy, what your purpose in life, and what value you can bring to any relationship. When you have that, you set up the right goals, and there's a lot of research around goal setting and how that first part is in there. And then you use that to create your brand, and then you power that with rituals and routines. That is just the foundation. I'm not even talking about shaking hands but that foundation, especially like what value you can bring to any relationship, is vital.
A firm sense of identity.
Exactly. And now you come in with confidence and you say, okay, well, who are the right people that I should be networking with, and what are the right networks? Which is something, I mean, New Degree Press talks a lot about this as well, right? In terms of when you get your book out there, who are the right people and what are the right networks that I need to be connected with? And then how do you bring tons of value to them to make them successful and measure that value over time? That's the execution part. The third part of the framework is optimization. And that's around just network. One part of it is networking events. So what do you do like before the networking event, during and after, follow up? And then social media. How do you leverage all the digital email stuff in social media? And in New Degree Press, they have a lot of great tools, techniques, thoughts, at least it relates to books. But as I have them, it's work, right? You got to identify the people. You got to reach out with value. You got to so a lot of it you got to do the work, and it's got to be of value to them, right? So even like when I'm pitching my book, like, why would anybody want to buy this book? What's the value to them?
And doing all that research is incredibly important, as you were mentioning. And then I think the hardest part, which you were starting to get into, was where do you find them? Like, how do you meet people where they're at? How do you get connected into those networking events, or how do you meet the people you want to meet without just like straight up showing up to their office?
Yeah, well, you can. So you know what your goals are, and you say these are the right people, these are the right networks, and these are a couple people I'd like to meet with. You got to do a lot of research on them. Do you know anybody that knows them? What are the 5-6 things that they care about that's really important to them? Some of it might be work related, some of it might be community, nonprofit. There might be a lot of different things. But you really, and then when you connect with very customized and specific on how you can help them be all the value and stuff that we talk about in the foundation, all the values and strengths that you bring, and how you can help that person be successful and accomplish the goals that they want. And LinkedIn's a great tool as an example to connect or find out who are, there's other social vehicles as well. And then there's, other Google and others that are good for that as well.
So you were digging into how to make that network and why it's important, which leads into kind of, Kyra was alluding to how there's these digital spaces now in this way that all the industries have been turned on their head with the telecommuting, and I'm not going to say the P word, but as our world becomes more digital, what tactics from in-person networking can be carried into virtual spaces?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes with you still got to do these fundamentals, your foundation, who are the right people and what are the right networks. And then once you have those identified, you'd say, okay, now can I connect with these people in person or virtual, and how do I leverage all these virtual tools, social, email, LinkedIn, connecting people. And so it depends kind of person by person. So what I say is once you know who you are and once you identify on your goals, for each of your goals, you identify who are the right people and what are the right networks. And then your rituals are, how do I connect with them on a regular basis? In this world, as we become more digital, it's a lot easier for us to build networks globally, obviously across the United States. I think all of us are we're in different cities and we're using this virtual platform to connect and share. But I think, so for each person and each goal that they have, you say, well, what's the right, am I going to meet this person? Am I going to meet this person or in this network physically, or it doesn't look like it? So I'm going to have to do it virtually. Okay, now virtually, what do I do? Well, I got all these different social platforms, or I can do an email, or I can do, or I can, based on what they're going to say, you know what? I can maybe make a connection, right, to Tyra and this person, or Mackenzie and this person that can add value. And I'll probably spend 2 to 3 hours a week just connecting people, because I know that their goals and they haven't connected. And in my book, I talk about a bunch of stories of connections that I made that haven't really had like fruitful results that I didn't even think would ever happen. But it's kind of amazing when you connect people.
I'm glad you touched on the options outside of LinkedIn, because I think that's a lot of people's first line of defense. That's their default. That's where they can find the most, unless the person has a personal website. That's where you can find the most information, hopefully, if they've put it online, about what their job is, what they do, how long they've been there, and those sorts of things. But yeah, being able to reach out on their website, through the company About Us page, via email, or the best, exactly what you're saying, who might also know them, that can help connect you. That's a huge thing. And then following up, we've learned the power of the follow-up, right? Following up with those people to get that connection is, you're not being inconsiderate most of the time. 9 times out of 10, you're not being an inconsiderate human if that's ever your worry.
That's right. And you Google articles about them. You can go into like, hey, do they have any YouTube videos, person ABC, and you just be amazed at what you start finding over time about people. LinkedIn is one area, but there's also, like, to your point, there's also a lot of different areas that you can find information about people.
Mm-hmm. Something to build off of, this is a follow-up to what you just said, but also to one of your earlier points. Something that you mentioned was having a firm foundation, having a firm sense of self and what your values are, so you can then show how what you have to offer is a value add to the other people in your network. My question is there, for people who might be at a point in their career where they're transitioning and trying to redefine, like, not necessarily their core values, but like their career objectives, would you recommend that people try to diversify what their networks look like, or cultivate a really strong base in the field of interest?
Yeah, that's a great question. My network is, this is the work part of it, right? What you love, what makes you happy, what your purpose is, it changes over time. And your network should change. Your goals change over time, and your network should change over time. Or it can change over time. It depends on you and your goals, right? and it's also priorities, right? I mean, I think I can network with the whole world and be great at it, but unfortunately, I don't have unlimited. We all don't have unlimited time, so we got to choose our time wisely. I think as people, in my book, I talk about somebody who's made a pivot, and her goals were like going up the corporate ladder, and she found out that that wasn't her goal and her passion, and then so she has to shift. She shifts her goals. Her brand and what she communicates is shifted, and the network itself has shifted. And there's still core people that stick around in that network, but there's I think there'll always be, and at least for me, and I think for those who achieve networking excellence, there's always a next set of people that you should you'll add to your network, Kyra.
Yeah, I think the same way in which, the people in our lives are constantly changing, just exactly what you were saying, that applies to your network. Is not just about careers, right?
Yeah. The interesting thing is like this writing I just became an author the last, whatever, year or so, right? And my goal was to write a book. And now I've got this network of, New Degree Press, both of you, fellow authors, John Saunders, and people that have now kind of come into that orbit of my network, because we're in what I call network. It's like creating and improving value-based relationships to facilitate mutual goal accomplishment, right? And so, so my goals have changed a little bit in life, and my network is now, has changed, and probably, will continue to grow on. But actually, me personally too, I've had, like most people, I mean, you keep your network warm. By the way, there's a story, real quickly. There's a story that I call in the book. It's called 911 networking. And basically, 911 networking is like, you haven't heard from somebody in 10 years. And then all of a sudden they say, Kyra, I just lost my job. I need some help. And they don't even say, hi, how are you doing? They just kind of go right for can you help me? And it's like, we call that 911 networking. It's about keeping your networks warm and of value and staying connected. And, and there's an art. Those who achieve networking excellence are keeping their networks warm over time as well, and avoiding 911 networking is what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Avoid 911 networking. That's words to live by, because it is kind of scary when somebody you haven't heard from suddenly goes, "Oh, by the way, I exist. Can you help me?" It's like, wait, whoa,
right? Yeah. This comes back to a lot of conversations we've had in the past about the importance of treating other people like people and talking to them the way you would want to be approached. I think that's one of the most important things, probably, in networking. Would love to hear your feedback on this, but yeah, talking to people the way you would want to be spoken to, reaching out in the same way, whether it's asking for book reviews or asking for a connection, showing that genuine connection, even if it's as simple as the hello, how are you, before jumping into immediately asking them for what you want.
That's right. Yeah. And and even there was an author, right? I mean, that reached out to me, and she said, hey, I really appreciate if you gave me a review, read my book, read a couple of chapters. But then she said, and I'm more than happy to do that for you. Right. Which goes to the point of your, it's not an ask, and it's like a very tactical and you leverage social media as well to build relationships. And like for me, I mean, I try, I think I do an okay job. But like, especially like the new degree press orbit, the ones that I know, I comment, or I'll give some supportive feedback on social media. And it's very easy to do. And you have the empathy because you're an author, and you kind of know, we're all authors. So you have this empathy to help. And I think it's important. I mean, and it goes to your point. It's like you treat others how you would like to be treated.
So for this next question, you actually set up an excellent segue for it when you said that a huge part of throughout this process, you found that your network has grown by connecting with fellow authors. So how would you say, because many of the people in our audience are authors or aspiring authors, how can they use the book writing process specifically to activate and expand their networks?
There's a couple ways. in the, this is what I loved about the program is as I was writing the book, they say, hey, you really need to think about getting your book out there, and how you're going to get your book out there, and who is your network, and how do you stay connected to them, and what are the networks that you should be either to present your book or pitch your book or whatever. And you don't want it to be very cold reach out, right? So you want to have these networks warm, and then give value along the way to them. So the book writing process, right? It gives, and I think there's some great tools and techniques, right? That there's like the spread the spreadsheets that you can put all the names, and when you're contacting them and when you're reaching out, and there, but again, you got to put in the work behind it. And I like the way, I mean, I didn't do the pre-sale or whatever. I mean, I was able to invest my own money along the way, but I like, there's those who then had to activate their networks and ask, help me as I'm on this journey and pre-fund my book. And then I think as you publish your book, it's that network. And I mean, the way I'm looking at it, I mean, I'm still like, you can do it individually. You got to think about all the groups that you can be a part of. And then I've got it even like, these are people that are going to help me with speaking opportunities. These are people that I can speak at their companies, and really just thinking about all these different networks. But then again, how are you connecting with value? So it's been, and even the social media aspects about it as well. I think that New Degree Press, emphasizes as well are really good as well in terms of how do you get out there and communicate your book, your brand, the value that you add, and your book is going to add to the world, and get people engaged. I mean, I think it's a great way to activate and expand your network in a win-win fashion, right? I mean, you're going to win, but those who are reading your book are going to win, right, for the work you've done.
Absolutely. I mean, I found, especially in doing research for a nonfiction book, when you leverage the fact, hey, I'm writing a book and I'd like to interview you, and the people are like, oh, me? Like they're excited and honored always to know an author or to participate in the production of a book.
Yeah, that that was something like, in kudos to the team at New Degree Press, because I wasn't really thinking. I mean, I'm pretty good at networking. I write my little range, and like, David, it's about stories, right? It's about story, and then to your point, it's like, and then I interviewed these people, and then, oh, I love it, and it just made the book. It forced me to reconnect with them on a different level. And these were friends, people I know, and now that they're in a book, and and it's an Amazon hot new bestseller, now they're like, oh wow, I'm in, I'm actually in this book. So I've given value. It's like it's mutual success. But that you touched on that good point about interviewing people, and how that's the other part of the networking, right? That they're helping you write the book or review the book. And by the way, I interviewed somebody from Disney, and he's going to have me out there speaking to the Disney about networking and all that. So it's been fun. It's been
inevitably
fun.
there's always a Disney reference in every one of our coffee chats. You never know how it's going to happen. It's usually Kyra.
That's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, but that's cool, especially since it's indicating an opportunity that you have, David. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I actually have a follow-up question to this, where especially in which you were talking about how you use the book writing process to gain access to people to interview. Now that you're on the other side of the book writing process and the book production process, and you are now an author, have you seen how that has changed your network's perception of you? Like, has being an author added a new dimension to your network building or network interactions?
Yeah, it has. I think it's opened up more opportunities and different people reaching out to me. and even the people that I know within my network, they're saying, wow, you're kind of getting out there and promoting it, and having this new brand, if you will, of being an author. And they say, wow, you're doing a good job. But I'll tell you, a lot of it was the training at New Degree Press, and saying, hey, look, when this is what, here's how this thing's going to roll out, and here's what you need, stuff like, these are the early praise reports you need, and you're promoting that book out there, right? Here, early praise. Here's some snippets from the book. Here's what they got, the cover release, and all these different things that I think just set the authors in this program apart from others that I've seen out there, and friends that I've put out other books. They're doing nothing like this. They're, in terms of getting the word out there. So for me, that's just been helpful, and I've truly just enjoyed the learning as well, right? I mean, I think this is my first time author, but there's so much, and I love learning. I mean, I love learning, and I love this. But yeah, I think my network has seen that, and now I'm kind of in this author speaking role, and learning a bit about that process as well. I mean, I've given presentations, and I've spoken, but you start charging for them, and flights and expenses and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit of a different world for me, but I'm having fun with it, and got some good ones coming up.
A whole new world, one might say.
Mm-hmm. Yes, all the Disney references.
So in line with that, you were speaking to how valuable you found the community aspect of New Degree Press, and getting to kind of meet all these authors and do this kind of like same storm, different ships kind of scenario. And so we want to ask you, in terms of advice to the aspiring authors out there, especially, why is it important? Why is that piece so important for authors to pursue community or external accountability within the creative process, and when it comes to writing and truly finishing and publishing a book?
I think having a group that you can lean on, ask for questions, you're kind of at the same steps. And if there's 50 major steps in writing a book, you're kind of in that same cadence along the way. That one, you can help each other, but it does create that bit of accountability. And I'll give you like an example. There were a couple people in my cohort that were a little bit ahead of me, but I would see like 3 or 4 or 5 people and how they were releasing their book, how they were launching their book. I said, "Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, I like," and just really, leveraging and learning as well along the way. I think it's been extremely helpful. And I think as even like then you go back into this, you're learning together, right? Learning about storytelling, learning about putting on social media, learning about damn citations. Oh, those were so painful, man. Those were tough. so, but you along the way you're learning, and you're listening to them ask the questions, and you learn from them asking questions, and you build a sense of community, and it's a support community, because is everybody, either the authors or aspiring authors, it's tough, right? We all have lives. We have a lot of us have work, families, trial. It's tough. So you just know you're not alone, I think, is also helpful in a tough journey. I said, and publishing the book is just like step one. You got to get out there and market it. It's like there's a lot of work behind it.
Yeah, learning from others is really valuable in being able to do almost anything. It's like one of the key quotes of the program is, they say, like, great artists steal, not plagiarize, but looking to others for inspiration and for learning opportunities is a key part of producing a book. Absolutely. So we do have a question from the audience for you here, David, which is very exciting. So we want to know what your opinions are. Particularly Mage wants to know what your opinions are about mailing lists. when it comes to building your network. How do authors use readers, specifically how do emails to readers compare to other forms of networking, especially for fiction? But feel free to speak to both.
I think emails. I think having an email list and an email list of all your friends is ideal. It's like when I look at this book, I have a list of, I think it's 500 or 600 people, and I've been going through 10, 15 a day. Hey, and the thing is the message for the most, but I'm doing it individually, customized with value. And maybe a note. Oh, I might know that their son or daughter is graduating from college, or something that's unique and customized. But then the base of the message is the same, and reaching out. And then I also think, well, what networks are they a part of, and what's my ask? And sometimes my, hey, I'm happy to speak to your group about, group X about this. But going one by one, and and I have a long network, but I think going through that exercise of saying, who are all my network? How am I? What's the right method? You're building a relation, and it's not this tactical, give me something, buy my book, do this, but it's more, the value that you can give back. I think it's a great, and I highly recommend everyone does it. Or
I think that's an excellent point, because of all of the mailing lists that I'm on for different fiction authors, each time that they even make an attempt to add, like, even though it's still a mass email, but they start it with Mackenzie, you've got my attention a little bit more. But if an author were to come through and say something even that sounds remotely personal, even if they don't know me, but made an attempt, I would be far more likely to read the rest of the email and engage with whatever content and ask it is they're making. Because usually it's not just an announcement. It's not just my new edition is out, or I did this last week. They're asking, whether directly or subtly, they're asking for you to buy their merch, buy their book, leave a review, etc. So the more engaging that content is, and the more personal from the advice that you're giving, David, the better.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah. And just to quickly piggyback off of that, like particularly with, I guess, email lists or newsletters, oftentimes I've heard that those could be really great because people can follow you on social media, but social media has all these other distractions or other like avenues where your attention can be drawn away. Whereas for an email, or for like your own website, but especially an email, it is directed to the person from you. So there's like less likely to be like any distractions that you have to compete against almost. And then the people who are interested in those things that are on your email list are more likely to be your bigger supporters. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
No, that's right. And, email also gives you the ability to link to the Amazon, link to this, and you can really pull it together and really customize and get a nice message. And if you're using, you got the list, you got this broad, you got a base message, but then you save room for your customized part. You can do that. It'll be very, very helpful.
Well, first and foremost, just thank you so much for everything you've shared so far today. I feel like I have a clearer sense of like actionable items for like what it means to network build as an author. But do you happen to have any final words of wisdom for our audience today?
There's the three components that I talked about: building that foundation, right? Understanding yourself, powering it with goals in your brand and rituals. I think once you have that, the execution part is really where the secret sauce is, and being deliberate about, okay, this might be my mailing list. This might be the people that are, how am I going to really help them be successful? Because these are the people that are most important to whatever goals you have. They're not my goals, they're your goals. But you're going to pour tons and tons of value to them, and then use, networking events and social media to really help amplify and drive. That would be, I think, if I were to kind of that would be my big takeaway. Because if you don't have like what they talk about with goals, and whether it's Taylor Swift that we talk about in the program, and others, right? But being very smart, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound, right? Goals. The better they are, and the more you power ritual around that, the better you can identify the right people in your network, and then you pour tons of value there, and amazing things happen. If I were to summarize it all up, it's right there.
I love that shift in perspective, asking yourself first, what can you do for them before asking, directly what they can do for you.
Mm-hmm. JFK quote.
Close.
Very close to the JFK quote.
Well, thank you so much again for your time today, David. We learned a lot from you, and we really appreciate you talking with us about networking.
Well, hey, I learned a lot from both of you and the program, so it's an honor. Glad to share some thoughts. And for those who are out there, don't hesitate to connect with me on any of the social platforms and get out there and network.
Amazing. What is the preferred place you'd love for people to connect with you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the easiest, but I'm hot on the gram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on all those, but LinkedIn's the best one.
Wonderful. Thanks again, David.
Thank you all. Have a great one.
Like he said,
that was great.
Go and give him a Google. Reach out to him on LinkedIn or the gram.
Mm-hmm. Onward and upward and all of the networking things. And speaking of networking, you can network with us. So if you have any ideas for what could be on Coffee Chats, do not hesitate to suggest a topic in the comments below. We do read those, and we have gotten ideas from y'all. So please feel free to drop anything.
Keep them coming
there, and we will engage. Also, if you want to connect with us, your illustrious hosts are on the ticker down there. That's where you can connect with us on Instagram. Also, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers thanks to wonderful viewers like you. So yay! So with all that being said, beautiful people, thanks so much for joining us for this coffee chat. I hope that we both hope that you're enjoying your beverage of choice wherever you are in the world.
See you guys next time.
Bye.